The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
A science story, huh?
These NYU scientists,
I
it
felt
felt
really
right.
But I was so
And I just thought,
happy.
well,
I had figured it out.
It was that golden moment.
Because science was on my side.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Story Clatter, where true personal stories about science help us to discover how weird and wonderful it is to exist in this world and be a human. I'm your host, Misha Gajewski, and in today's episode, neither of our storytellers found the one. In fact, our first storyteller, Mark Pitzer, might have found the worst person ever. Okay, maybe that's a little harsh, but if you're potentially facing death in the next 24 hours, shouldn't your partner care more about you than your job, right? Mark is a neuroscientist at the University of Portland who has spent the last 25 years working to better understand and treat diseases of the brain like Parkinson's and Huntington's diseases. His story was recorded at Alberta Rose Theatre in Portland, Oregon, as part of a show we did in partnership with the Association of Science Communicators, Science on Tap, and Make You Think. I can't wait for y'all to hear this story. Here's Mark.
When I was 23, I moved from Kansas to Chicago. And I was enamored and in awe of the big city, of the crowds and the architecture and just the movement of it. And I was also enamored by a woman named Clarissa. And I had met Clarissa 2 weeks in of being in Chicago. And to me, she was like a Hollywood movie star. She wore these high-heeled shoes, these yellow high-heeled shoes. And when she walked down the sidewalk, it looked like she was walking across the stage to pick up her Academy Award. We went out on a couple dates, and I really, really liked her, and I really wanted to be her boyfriend. But there were two problems. One, me. I was a kid from Kansas. And number two, me again, I was a student. I moved from Kansas to Chicago to be a graduate student. So I didn't have anything going for me except that I worked in a neuroscience lab. So my tiny little Kansas brain thought that I could impress Clarissa if I just made like a quick, major scientific breakthrough. She would want to be my girlfriend. So I got to work. It was October, and me and Dean was my Ph.D. advisor. Everybody wanted to be Dean. Dean was the funniest guy in the room and the smartest guy, a mixture of Carl Sagan and John Candy. And we were working on measuring dopamine in this chemical analysis machine. And what we had to do was clean it. I was holding this filter, this tube, and he had just a beaker, about a cup and a half, 2 cups of a solvent, acetonitrile. And I'm holding it. He's pouring it, and the beaker slips out of his hand, hits the ground, hits the floor, and all the acetonitrile splashes up on me, down my legs and into my tennis shoes. And it's cold, and I can smell, it's kind of sweet, and I laugh out loud. And Dean, who's as cool as a cucumber, freaks out. He said, "Quit laughing. Get washed up, meet me in the lab immediately." And I run into the sink and I clean myself off. I take my shoe and pour all this acetonitrile out, and I hop down the hallway to the office, and he's sitting in the office chair with the phone on his lap. And he's got the receiver, and he's cupped the microphone, and he goes, sit down. And I sit eye to eye to him, knee to knee on the couch. And he goes, ask them if acetylnitrile is dangerous. And I put the phone up to my ear, and I said, hello? And a woman said, poison control, how can I help? I said, is acetylnitrile dangerous? And she goes, acetylnitrile. And I can hear her flipping through some pages. Acetylnitrile. Whoa. I said, what? She goes, methyl cyanide is dangerous. I go, yeah, I said acetylnitrile. She goes, honey, methyl cyanide is acetylnitrile. And I said, is it dangerous? And she goes, don't use it. And I go, but is it dangerous? Well, it says here that it absorbs quickly through the skin. And also, if you inhale it, it goes directly into the bloodstream. And it takes 14 hours for the methyl group to pop off the cyanide group, and then the person has cyanide poisoning. I said, is there a treatment? And she said, well, it says here that based on the concentration, the person with cyanide poisoning goes into a coma and then comes out. Or dies. And I said, is there a treatment? And she goes, nope, no antidote, don't use it. There's lots of other solvents. Can I help you with anything else? No. I hung up. Dave heard every word. And he grabbed me by the shoulders and he goes, you're fine. You're fine. You're going to be fine. I'm going to the Cook County Medical Library right now. I'm going to look up every article on methyl cyanide, and I'll call you if I learn anything else. And he left. And he was selling it, and I wasn't buying it. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath, and I felt like I was floating, and I just didn't know what to do. There was nobody else around, and I left the lab. I left all my stuff. I walked out of the science building. I walked across the street, got on the number 8 bus, and headed home. And I just wanted to talk to somebody, and all these people on the bus, I just wanted to turn to somebody and said, I've got something. I've got something wrong. I got home, and I live alone, and I wanted to pick up the phone and call home. I wanted to call my mom and dad, but I knew if my mom found this out, she would have a nervous breakdown. And what could my dad do? What could my brothers do? What could my friends do? So I pulled out a ballpoint pen and a yellow legal pad, and I wrote everybody letters. And I said, I love you, and I will miss you. And when I got to the letter to Clarissa, I put down the pen, and I picked up the phone, and I called Clarissa at home. And I said, Clarissa, it's Mark. She goes, Mark, how are you? I might die. She goes, yeah, we all might die. I said, Clarissa, I might die tonight. And she goes, what? I have some level of cyanide poisoning. She goes, well, go to the hospital. Quick, go. I said, there's nothing that can be done. And I just wanted to call and say, I really, really like you. I know we've only been on a handful of dates, but I was wondering, would you come over and stay with me tonight? And she didn't say anything for a long, long time. And then she said, no. I said, what? She goes, I have to be at work real early, and you know how my boss is. And I said, I might die. She goes, it's really important project. And when I hung up, my chest just tightened, and I felt so alone. And I was worried about what would my parents, if I died, what would their lives be like? Who's going to find me in my apartment? Who's going to find my body? All of these ideas are swirling around my head, and I walked into the bedroom, and I laid down, and somehow I fell asleep. And the next thing you know, I woke up. And it was morning. And I turned and I got out of bed and I felt great. I felt better than I'd felt in a long time. And I walked right over to the phone and I picked it up and I called Clarissa at work. And she goes, "Mark, you're alive." I go, "Yeah." She goes, "That's great." I go, "Pretty good so far, yeah." And I said, "Clarissa, but I just have to say something. Something very important." "What is it?" I said, "We need to break up." And she said, "Okay." When I got off the phone, it was clear. I was chasing something that didn't even want to be chased, right? I was chasing Clarissa, and Clarissa with her yellow high-heeled shoes was like a glossy cover to a magazine. I got dressed, went directly to lab. Dean was there working on the analysis machine, and I stepped up. I started working with him. And I said, "You didn't call." And he goes, "Nope. I told you were going to be fine." I said, "I didn't know I was going to be fine." And he goes, You're a graduate student. You will never know that you're fine." And we kind of laughed, and we left it out there in the ether. And we never talked about it again, ever again. So I never made a scientific breakthrough that month, that year, never. I have maybe, at best, moved the needle just a little bit. It took me years of doing science to realize if you're lucky, you get a little piece that you can push into that massive puzzle. About the time that I finished all my experiments and I was writing up my dissertation for my Ph.D., I met another woman, Jody. And Jody is not flash. Jody glows from deep down in her heart. And I can guarantee you, if I pulled out my phone right now in this theater and I called up Jody and I said, "Jody, I'm in trouble," Jody would jump out of her Birkenstocks to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope Mark has found someone who is a bit more supportive to spend his life with. Anyway, to find out more about Mark, visit our website, storyclatter.org. Being a storyteller on stage is just one way to make Story Collider happen, but if sharing your story in front of an audience isn't your jam, maybe becoming a Story Collider donor is more up your alley. Right now, the voices of scientists and science communicators need to be heard more than ever. At Story Collider, we believe that personal stories can cut through the noise, connecting people to the human side of science, building trust, and making complex issues real. But we can't do this work without you. Story Collider donors play an essential role in our ability to bring you this podcast, share these stories, and foster conversations that matter. If you believe in the power of science storytelling, please donate to the Story Collider at storycollider.org/donate. The most popular level is $10 a month, and you can make your tax-deductible donation at storycollider.org/donate. But really, any level makes a difference, and we're so grateful to everyone who supports Story Collider. Hey everyone, I've always been a little skeptical about tap water. Who really knows what's in there? Turns out the Environmental Working Group does, and according to extensive research by them, virtually every home in America has harmful contaminants in its tap water. Gross. That's why I'm so excited about AquaTrue. Their purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process, which means they remove 15 times more contaminants than ordinary water pitcher filters, and are specifically designed to combat chemicals like PFAS in your water supply. Unfun fact, PFAS, the forever chemical, are found in almost 45% of US tap water, so it's awesome that AquaTrue is certified to remove these contaminants. Plus, their countertop purifiers require no installation or plumbing. Just plug it in and you're good to go. And if you're worried about expensive filters, don't be. AquaTrue filters are affordable and last from 6 months to 2 years, which is great because I hate changing filters every 2 to 3 months. And the best part, the water tastes amazing. Seriously, my tea, better. My coffee, also better. Even my pets and plants are into it. So if you want to drink cleaner, healthier water, check out AquaTrue. Right now, Story Clatter listeners get 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com, that's AQUATRU.com, and use promo code Collider at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use promo code COLLIDER. Okay, I have to admit, I never really thought about my indoor air quality until I learned that indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air. Yikes. But since I got an air doctor, game changer. Air Doctor removes 99.99% of contaminants, from allergens and smoke to mold spores and viruses, which is great because I live in a big city and have a pet. And get this, it captures particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters. Basically, it's working overtime, so I don't have to worry about what I'm breathing in, like all the cat dander my cat is shedding. Since getting an air doctor, I've totally noticed the difference in how much less stuffed up I am in the morning, so no wonder Newsweek voted it Best Air Purifier. And 98% of customers say they feel the difference. If you want to breathe easier and sleep better, now's the time. Story Collider listeners can get up to $300 off. Just go to airdoctorpro.com, AIRDOCTORPRO.com, and use promo code Collider, COLLIDER, at checkout. It even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and a 3-year warranty. So you've got nothing to lose, except the bad air. Our next story is from award-winning designer, writer, and storyteller Adam Selbst. His story was recorded at the Pier 57's Discovery Tank in New York's Hudson River Park. And like all of Adam's stories, this one is a quirky delight from start to finish. I don't want to give too much away, but I gotta hand it to Adam for coming up with maybe the strangest date idea I've ever heard of: a Central Park Squirrel Census. Anyway, here's Adam.
I want to be straight with you right off the bat. This is a science storytelling show. I'm not a scientist. I'm in fact not even particularly well educated. I'm actually not very smart. The issue though is that I find myself very attracted to smart women. And like everyone's got their what they like. Big boobs, like brunette. I'll be honest, I like that stuff too. But like, give me a woman with like multiple graduate degrees. Like, that's my fucking jam. Like, set me up with someone like that. But it's a little difficult because, all right, look, when I say I'm not well educated, let me elaborate. I have a painting degree from a state university. They had us read something like 4 books the entire time. And I didn't read any of them. I don't even think they were hard books, but you know what? I wouldn't know. So I love, intelligent women, but I am who I am. So it's like a little bit difficult, but you know what? I try my best. So a couple of years ago, I met this woman, Jamie, and Jamie had all of like the qualities that I look for in like someone to date. First, she was beautiful. Second, she had a Ph.D. And third, she was, willing to date me. And against all odds, we started like actually going out. And at first, we're going and we're doing like normal date stuff. I'm bringing her to a bar. We're doing banter. I'm pretty good at that. Like, I think things are going like, you know what? They're going medium. Things are going medium because at the end of every date, she would ask me out again. So I thought I'm doing okay. But whenever I went to kiss her, she would sort of like turn her head and give me her cheek. Do you know that move? It happened a few times. So eventually I go up to her and I'm like, screw up my courage. And I'm like, so Jamie, look, are you like even attracted to me? She goes, oh my God, Adam, I think you are so funny. But then she asked me out again. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't have a lot of time left. Like, there are only so many times someone this smart and this pretty is going to go on a date with me unless, like, I really up my game. So I'm racking my brain. I'm like, what is, like, the big date that's going to, like, win her over? And I can't think of anything. And then I saw it in the New York Times, the Central Park Squirrel Census. Someone decided that they were going to count every squirrel in Central Park, and this was for science, and they needed my help to count them up. And this had, like, a couple of things going for it. First of all, it was cheap. In fact, it was free. Second of all, it was adorable. And third and most importantly, I had a secret weapon. I actually know a ton about squirrels. You see, when I was a little kid, I was, like, deathly afraid of squirrels. So my father, who's a high school biology teacher, set up, like, a little squirrel feeder in the backyard so I could watch all the squirrels. And he would teach me little facts about them. Like, do you know how many different ways squirrels use their tails? They use them to communicate. If it's very cold out, they'll use it as, like, a little security blanket. If a squirrel falls out of a tree, they will use it as a tiny parachute. And now this is a deep cut. Squirrels do not like to swim, but they know how. And when they do, they will use their tails as a tiny little rudder. And this is something nobody knows, practically. Squirrels' favorite food? After years of experimentation, I can tell you it is hazelnuts. So now, while I don't know a lot about science, if the subject that we're talking about all day is just squirrels, I feel like I can, like, claw my way up to her level and compete. So I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm going to kill this date. Now, here's the thing. When you tell people that you're going to go to Central Park and count every single squirrel there, they usually have follow-up questions. The first one is why? The answer to that is, who cares? Mind your business. The second question is, well, okay, wait, this is for science. Does this, like, help the squirrels in some way? And the answer is, yeah, sure, whatever. And the third question is, how do you make sure that you're not counting the same squirrel more than once? Because the thing is, squirrels all look the same, and they move around a lot. And the answer to that is, how about you shut the fuck up? I told you we're doing this. Listen, this is the deal. Jamie and I are going to go to Central Park. We're going to count up all the squirrels in Central Park. And she's going to become so, like, amazed at how enthusiastic and, like, knowledgeable I am about these adorable little critters that she is going to fall in love with me on the spot. And there, on the most beautiful fall day of the year, we're going to share our first kiss as squirrels run around us, chittering and burying nuts. And it's going to be like fucking Snow White. So just back off. This is what we're doing. So the big day comes. And we show up. It is the most beautiful fall day of the entire year. And we get there to the appointed spot. And let me tell you, any idea that I had that, like, I was going to be like the big, like, the big squirrel, like, big squirrel fact guy or something at the place was absolutely dashed. Because let me tell you, people had come from all over, and these guys were fanatics. Everyone's there. They're wearing squirrel hats. They're wearing squirrel pins. They've got, like, squirrel T-shirts. There's, like, someone with a bedazzled denim jacket with, like, a squirrel on it. People have face paint that say shit like, I'm nuts for squirrels. It was like fucking squirrel Mardi Gras over there. Too late, I had realized that I had spent all of this time learning about squirrels. These people had been living it. So in the middle of this whole cacophony, we finally meet this guy, Ron. Ron is one of North America's premier squirrel scientists. And he had come to Central Park just to help us count up all the squirrels. So, don't worry, Ron had a system. He hands out all these sheets of paper, and on them there's like 3 boxes. The first box, you have to count the squirrels. Got it. 1, 2, I can do that. Second one, label the squirrel's color, gray. Got it. But the third one is a little more amorphous. That's like sort of a fun one. There we have to talk about what we think the squirrel is like feeling. Maybe tell a little story about the squirrel. And he described this as science storytelling. And this is the kind of science that I can get into, like fake. Jamie, however, though, is a real scientist. So she's like got some questions. Like she's not sure about this. She's asking him about statistics. She's asking him about something called an algorithm. And I am pretty lost, but she is like not having the science storytelling stuff. So they begin like sort of arguing a little bit. And I start to get nervous because this is not the vibe that I'm trying to cultivate on the day we're going to fall in love. I want to get her, and we're burning daylight. There's squirrels to count. So I don't know quite what to do. So I just start counting squirrels. Hey, Jamie, look at me. There's squirrels everywhere. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4. She screams, what are you doing? We're not in our squirrel sector yet. We have to get to our sector and count those squirrels. I said, I don't know, 4, 5, 6. She goes, no, you're not following the rules. I go, that's how I am, baby. I don't follow the rules, but goddamn it, I get results. She goes, that's what I'm worried about. This is science. We have to get the right results. But I keep counting. And finally she goes, all right, we'll go to the sector. So far, so good. We get there, start counting. 1, 2, 3. Color, gray, 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 gray. I'm so good at this. But the last box, the one where we have to come up with, squirrel story, science storytelling, that's where I really shine. I start out a little bit slow. This squirrel looks a little pokey, like he had a little trouble getting out of his nest this morning. Maybe he had a late night. But by the end of it, I'm like Balthazar, could barely get out of bed. The color of every acorn reminds him of her eyes. How could he go on? Meanwhile, Lorraine has renewed spring in every step. Since she unshackled herself from that drip Balthazar, every day was Lorraine's best day. And Jamie looked at me and she goes, this is not science. And I was like, well, you're kind of missing the point. It doesn't have to be exact science. Like, we're having fun, right? We're out, we're building memories, but she wasn't having it. And the next thing I know, we're in a big argument about like what the point of this was. By the way, it's science. Was this a worthwhile endeavor? Are we even having fun at all? And I realized we were not, that this day was not going the way that I had planned. And we were not going to be falling in love. And we were not going to be sharing our first kiss, like while the squirrels danced around us. And in fact, I was right. We didn't see each other at all after that day. But it's okay. A couple of years later, it was about 2 or 3 years, and countless bad dates later, I met this brilliant psychoanalyst. I mean, she was really cute. She was beautiful, and she had the biggest glasses I'd ever seen. Like, she could read a book on the moon, which maybe she has. I don't remember what, she had gotten her degrees in. Several master's degrees. She has more freckles than I have words in my vocabulary. However, she didn't know a lot about squirrels, but this is what's key. She was willing to learn. And as we started spending some more time together, we started walking to the park every morning to feed the little squirrels. And then for I think it was our first year anniversary, or perhaps her birthday, I gave her a present. It was a hand, custom made little squirrel feeder called Tracy's Place. And in the morning, she gets woken up every morning by her 3 neighborhood squirrels, Jumpy, Sir Nutkin, and Petunia. And after they wake her up, tapping on her window, they follow her. She goes from her bedroom to the kitchen to prepare their breakfast, from window to window, frantically tapping, watching her through the window as she scoops out their favorite breakfast, a single handful of hazelnuts, and goes back to her room and pours it out for them. And she and I will watch them as they open the hazelnuts with their little teeth and communicate with their little tails and just live their best squirrel lives. And let me tell you, you guys, I have never been happier. Thank you.
That was Adam. If you'd like to learn more about him or hear some of his other stories on our podcast, visit our website, storyclatter.org. Our website is just one way to connect with Storyclatter, but there are so many other ways, and we hope you'll use them all. You can always follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Head to storyclatter.org to become a financial supporter, or if you want to come to one of our shows, start your own Storyclatter show in your community, or even learn how to tell your own science story, you can learn all about that on our website too. This podcast is produced by me, Misha Gajewski, along with Jen Chen, Nikisha Roberts-Washington, and Aaron Barker, Executive Director and co-founder of the Storyclatter. The stories featured in today's episode were produced by Josh Silberg, Juan Carlos Martinez Jr., Christine Williams, and Gastor Almonte. Special thanks goes out to Storyclatter's board and team. Our theme music is by Ghost, and next week I'll be back with stories about breaking barriers and overcoming all sorts of obstacles just to pursue a life in science. You won't want to miss these tales. Until next time, thanks so much for listening.